Hello, fellow movie crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and as always is Brian Michaels, and it is now time for our third annual? The third?
Sure, let's go with that.
Yeah, our third annual Movie Crusaders Awards. Every year we watch our movies and we accumulate all of our nominations for certain categories that we created that are fun, enjoyable categories. Some are funny, some are bad, and some are appreciative to some of the stuff that come out during 2023. Now, if you're looking for Best Supporting Actor, Actress, Best Actor, Actress, Director, and Best Picture, we're going to be doing that on a separate video when we do the Movie Crusaders Oscar show, which we're going to wait until the actual nominations come out, which I believe you said was Tuesday?
The nominations are Tuesday, yes.
Yeah. So we'll be doing that video here probably in the next week or two when we get closer to the actual Oscars. But this is the fun award show. We have, I think every nominee or every award has at least 5 nominees, except for one has 10, because we always do at least one award that has 10 nominees because it's well-deserved. But like I said, this year, how are you feeling about the nominations this year? Usually there's always like one movie that completely is in every category, but I feel like this one's more balanced.
This one's, I mean, there are definitely some that have multiple nominations, but I feel like they're spread out pretty good this year. Not like intention, like we felt we had to spread them out. It was a good balance of everything. I also will say that for once, we didn't really have to fight that much about it. It's like we either agreed on it or there was stuff where I'm okay with that, you know?
Yeah, normally we had to I will give you this, but you're giving me this one kind of thing. Whereas this was I think we had a couple you can have this one, I'll take this one. We're like, okay, cool. Or I'm not gonna fight you on this one. Yeah, I think it's either we finally have gotten used to each other enough that we know what the other person's gonna fight for, and just it's not worth the fight, or we've been relatively agreeing on most of the stuff where it's that's exactly where I was going to go with that. So, we enjoy doing this. This is a fun one. It's a pain to edit and it's a pain to discuss, but we enjoy doing this one. So we hope you guys enjoy just as much as we do. Off to the very, very first award. And of course, what better way to start off an award show with Best Opening Sequence, aka the Hold On to Your Butts Award. This one goes for the best opening to a movie. Now, some of these movies' opening is 20 minutes long because the sequence didn't end till 20 minutes in. And others are very small ones. But I think all of ours are pretty lengthy openings because they're just so awesome. But these are very good. And our nominees are, we've got Adonis Creed versus Ricky. Is it Ricky Pretty Boy Conlon?
Pretty Ricky Conlon.
Pretty Ricky Conlon 2. In Creed 3, we've got the train sequence in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We've got the submarine goes down in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. We've got pretty much the whole beginning till the opening credits for Scream 6, and Gwen's story in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And our winner for Best Opening Sequence of the Year, aka the Hold On to Your Butts Award, goes to Scream 6. I think you and I were both in a hard agreement that this was the winner because this is what literally set off that this is not the same Scream movie that we know.
Yeah, Scream's openings have always been very, very strong because they always have that opening scene. You know somebody's going to die in the opening scene. That goes back to killing off Drew Barrymore in the very first one. Oh, spoilers, by the way, for a 20-some-year-old movie.
Yeah, almost 30.
30.
Yeah, almost 30.
Oof. But and this year, that part was no different. But they also had a twist on it. You're at one point, you're wait, they're revealing the killer right up front. That can be a whole new dynamic. Nope, there's another twist on top of that. And it just kind of kept going. And from the very beginning, you're okay, this is going to be a little different.
Yeah. This isn't the movies. Fuck the movies. I was okay, here we go. It's hard. It's hard. As great as those sequences other ones are, this one was it set the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus we really like Tomorrow Weaving and Antonio Valori. So.
That too. Our next award goes out to Funniest Moment. This one we actually had a hard time narrowing down. Not narrowing down 5, but actually finding 5 legitimately outright funny moments. So we didn't want to pull a Jackass last year where everything was Jackass 4, but we were able to find them down. And our nominees for Funniest Moment are, is it Edgin? Is it Edgin? Is that how you say his name? From Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh, I don't even know.
Oh, okay. Not Chris Pratt. Chris
Pine.
Yeah, Chris Pine. I almost said Pratt. Chris Pine's character in Dungeons and Dragons glitching out with his instrument in Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. The Flash's slow running in The Flash, MCU's first F-bomb done by Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the K-pop airport scene in Joyride, and Donatello takes a sigh to the leg in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And the winner for funniest moments goes to MCU's first F-bomb in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Brian, this is the winner. Like, this is 100% the winner, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. This is a movie. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy movies have always been very humorous, full of humor and things like that. But this is just kind of took it to another level because you're watching the scene, he's like, come on, just push the button, get in the car. And then finally it's like, just get in the fucking car. And just partially the fact that the F-bomb was there because it was so unexpected, but also just Chris Pratt's delivery of it. And we've all kind of been in that situation too. It's just, that was one of the few moments in theaters where like the whole theater was actually laughing out loud.
Yeah, I remember sitting in the theater watching it, and he's like, press the door, lift the hip. What do I do now? Get in the fucking car. And I literally had a Bender moment when that happened. I was like, that couldn't have gone any more perfect. I was so happy with it. The K-pop airport scene that was right there, but you can't beat MCU's first F-bomb. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm glad that it's okay for them to do it now. I don't want them to overuse it because it was such a
I don't think they will. I think that's a very James Gunn thing. I think everybody else, I don't see them just inserting F-bombs into these movies from now on.
I do see it happening probably in Deadpool.
Well, that's going to be full of them because that's hard R rated.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Exactly. Going to our next award is Best Comedy Film. This is a very wide assortment of movies here. Definitely not what I would have thought at the beginning of the year, but our nominees are Barbie, Dix the Musical, Joyride, Renfield, and Strays. And the winner for Best Comedy Film goes to Joyride. This is a movie, like I said, from the very first trailer, I was like, oh, okay, this actually looks funny. And it delivered on the movie itself. What were your thoughts on Joyride?
Joyride was a lot of fun. It's one of those things, the trailers looked pretty fun, but, a lot of times you see these trailers, especially for comedies, and you get there and like, okay, all the best jokes are in the trailer. And it was just like the rest of it was kind of but this one I thought delivered. It was a whole lot of unexpected stuff. It's something something new, something different. We had a lot of new faces in there, or faces that haven't been able to be like the main leads in these kind of movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a ton of fun. I was kind of pulling myself for Dix, but you hadn't seen that one, so but I'm perfectly fine with Joyride winning.
Add the musical to that next time because that just sounded all wrong.
I was just waiting. I was pulling Dix. Yeah.
It's pulling for Dix so hard. Going to our next award, and if it's fitting based off of what we just said, this is the biggest what the fuck moment, aka the Furries in the Conference Room Award. And if you guys don't understand what that reference means, you need to check out the Avengers. Is it 1998? Yeah, the 1998 Avengers film, not the MCU Avengers, and you will know exactly what we are talking about. This is award for. It's a mix of good and bad, but literally it's the moment where we were basically going, what the fuck is going on in this thing? And the nominees are MODOK's Face and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, the twin sex montage in Dix the Musical.
And that's with each other, by the way.
Yes. I'm gonna preface this one a little bit differently. Cat's kitty tattoo in Joyride.
Okay.
Jonas being able to breathe 8,000 kilometers underwater in Meg 2 The Trench, and the ending of No One Will Save You. And the winner for biggest what the fuck moment, the Furries in the Conference Room Award, goes to MODOK's Face and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. I preface that it should have been MODOK's ass, but just
I call it MODOK in total. The whole character just like, what the fuck is this bullshit?
Exactly.
I've made my thoughts on this quite clear throughout the year, so I'll let you talk on this.
Yeah, MODOK's Face. I mean, it's one of those things where, granted, like we shit on the Flash for its crappy CG, but the director came out and basically said, "Oh, it's because it's in the Speed Force, and that's why it all looks weird." And we're like, "Okay, cool." There was no excuse and no reasoning or explanation for why MODOK looked as shitty as he did. You basically took oh god, what's the actor's name? Corey Stoll's face. He basically just stretched it out and just like it was like you took like a paper or like a rubber latex of his face and stretched it over a basketball and said that looks good. And it's like as gorgeous as you made the quantum realm look in the backdrops and everything, and then you had this monstrosity.
Oh, and for me, it wasn't even about just the CGI. It was just the whole concept of the character and everything about him. I just hated. It was like, what the?
He
fuck
looked good when he had his mask on.
Oh.
Like when he had his mask on, it was like, oh, okay.
Arms and things. It was just
everything about that thing was bad. And every time you watch it on screen, you're like, what the fuck, Marvel? Really? You thought this was a good idea? Hence why it won that award. Going to our next one, it is Best Horror Film. This was actually a really tight race. I feel like all the nominees here deserve to win. And the nominees are The Boogeyman, Evil Dead Rise, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, Scream 6, and Talk to Me. And the winner goes to its second award of the night, Scream 6. Like I said, say what you will about the killer reveal at the end. I think Scream 6 was a vast improvement over last year or the previous year's version of Scream 5. Better, grittier, more realistic, more brutal. I think the cast was better this time around. Yes, the killers didn't link up as well as we wanted to, but do they ever link up outside of the first film? No, but I still think that they utilized it really, really well. What were your thoughts on Scream 6?
Yeah, Scream 6 is a ton of fun. It's probably my favorite one since the second film. And honestly, if I think about it, it might be
it's right there.
So, I mean, that was great. But I mean, this was a strong field top to bottom because these are all great movies. And I mean, not that there weren't bad movies that came out this year too, horror movies, but there was a ton of, this is a strong year for horror because I think we were talking about some movie the other day and you're like, this is one of my top ones. I'm like, oh, that's my 13th favorite of the year. And that's not to say it was a bad movie, just there was a ton of good horror movies this year.
Oh, yeah. Going to our next award is Best Sci-Fi / Fantasy Film. Once again, wide spectrum on that because of sci-fi and fantasy. There's certain films that are very, very sci-fi, and then there's some that have just sci-fi elements, and there's some that are very fantasy and some with small fantasy elements, but they all fit in this range. And the nominees are The Creator, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, Godzilla -1, No One Will Save You, and They Cloned Tyrone. And the award for Best Sci-Fi Fantasy goes to Godzilla -1. Like I said, another tough field. I think every one of them is deserving in some form or fashion, but Godzilla -1 did the one thing that we've been waiting for a long time, and that's basically make a masterpiece in terms of a kaiju Godzilla film. Like I said, it was my number 1 rated film of the year. Brian had it in its honorable mentions, I believe, which for
Godzilla, and I think we both had it on our best surprises of the year as well.
Yeah,
because this is a movie that either we didn't even know was coming out, or even when you heard about it, like, okay, it's going to be a Japanese Godzilla movie. It'll be what it is. But this one really impressed both of us. I know you even more than me because that's just you're a big Godzilla guy. But yeah, that was a really good film. And next week you can go watch it in black and white if you want, apparently. So. Yeah,
which okay, I got to preface this real quick. A little sidebar to the awards. You posted this to me and you go like, really? And I was like, are you saying that in a bad way?
Why?
A, because the original Godzilla is in black and white, and this, so they're trying to do like a touch thing. And plus, I would say the same thing for why when they did Mad Max Fury Road and Chrome Edition.
I will agree with it there too. I will say why.
It's like, I mean, granted, if I have to choose between the black and white and the color, I'm going to pick the color. But I can see the people who want to clamor to see a black and white version of Godzilla -1 because
I'm sure I'll watch it out of curiosity. It just kind of surprised me.
Yeah. Next is this is our Big 10 nominated award. Honestly, we could have gone 20 on this one because this was the year of best action scenes.
We still had trouble narrowing this down.
Yes. Even at 10 nominations, we had an incredibly hard time not only just narrowing it down, but picking a winner because it was basically a 2-horse race between the winner and the kind of the runner-up. But we could have gone 15, 20 noms for this. There were so many. I think I had like a list of 30.
Well, because there were 3 or 4 films that deserved like nomination for 4 different scenes each.
Yes, we had to lock it into no more than 2 scenes per movie, but there were some that deserved 4 or 5 nominations on their own. But the nominees for Best Action Scene are Attack on the Safe House, Extraction 2, The 20-Minute Oneer in Extraction 2, Godzilla Attacks Ginza in Godzilla -1, Godzilla Attacks Sigma Bay, Godzilla -1, the hallway fight in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the ceiling one-shot gunfight in John Wick Chapter 4, the Osaka Continental gunfight in John Wick Chapter 4, the Rome car chase in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, the train crash escape in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Miles escaping from Spider-World and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Not only are all these long-winded, but every title is long. I was like, it's like, damn, I'm getting winded just reading this whole thing. So out of all those, the one winner goes to the 20-minute oneer in Extraction 2. I mean, it was between that and I think the ceiling one-shot gunfight in John Wick Chapter 4. It was like this.
Yeah, they were both amazing. Not just for the action, but just the way they were filmed and everything. Because like obviously John Wick, I had the overhead shot and it felt totally like a video game, like you go on place to place and just this one shot. But then with Extraction, I mean, the first Extraction had one that was what, like 10-minute, I think, 9-minute.
Yeah, I think it was 7 minutes actually,
something like that. And you're like, okay, that was awesome. And like, oh, no, just hold our beer. We're gonna outdo that. And then this one just goes on for like 20 minutes. I think it actually comes to like 22 minutes, something like that total.
Like that, yeah.
And I remember when I watched this, I said, this feels like a video game in like the best possible way. Because I mean, you start inside, you go out into that whole prison yard fight scene, then it continues like onto the train where you're shooting at the helicopters to come at you, and it just kept one-upping itself. And it was just, as far as just pure action, it was just amazing.
Here's the shocking part. As I loved this scene so much, I still have only watched it the one time. But it is lived in my brain since then. Like I watched it once, but I can remember everything.
Yeah. And anyone who has watched this, or after you do watch it, do yourself a favor and go on like YouTube, because Netflix put out these videos like how they filmed some of that stuff. And in this oneer, like they're like handing off the camera through windows and things like that. It's really a ton of fun.
That's the great thing too about it. And like I said, they did it with the first film as well. Watching how they pulled it off is just as fun or as amazing as them actually seeing it, the final cut of it. But yeah, that was definitely probably the hardest award we had to figure out a winner.
And I've talked about it before, but one of these top two action films have in common, both directed by former stunt coordinators, and they know how to film action.
Next, our award goes to Best Fight Scene, aka You Should Watch the Night Comes For Us award. Still on Netflix, and you should totally check it out. This is for the best fight scene, and the nominees are Adonis Creed versus Dame in Creed 3, Letty versus Cypher in Fast X, The Killer versus the Florida guy. I don't know what we want to call that guy in The Killer. The first transfer body fight in The Marvels, and Ethan fighting in the alley against Paris and another random dude in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And the winner for Best Fight, aka You Should Watch the Night Comes For Us award, goes to Ethan's alley fight against Paris and other guy in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Like I said, this fight, just for close quarters, was exciting. And then you had the intercut of Haley and Rebecca Ferguson running and going through all that stuff. But this fight was choreographed beautifully. Like I said, super tight, the lighting of it, everything about that. You really didn't quite know what was going to happen in that moment, which were a lot of these fights you kind of knew where it was going to go. Beautifully shot for this movie. What did you think about this scene?
Yeah, again, I think that's one of the things that makes with action movies and action scenes, and goes into fight scenes here as well, is that, I mean, first of all, you have great characters. You actually care about what's going on. We have Ethan, of course. I really enjoyed seeing Palm Clementine kind of get to be not only kind of evil, but kind of a badass. Because we're normally seeing her kind of demure and quiet as Mantis and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I loved her in this. But then the whole action scene, and especially being close quarters, it's like you have these movies like Captain America: Winter Soldier, where you have like a fight in an elevator, things like that. And these crowded ones just make it be that much more creative, and it feels that much more brutal because it's so close. But a big part of it does come down to how it's filmed, and this was done very well. So.
Yeah. Keeping on the action front, next award goes to Best Action Film, and the nominees are Extraction 2, Fast X, John Wick Chapter 4, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Transformers Rise of the Beasts. And the winner goes to John Wick Chapter 4. Like we said, in action set pieces, there were some movies that deserved 4 or 5 nominations throughout their film. John Wick Chapter 4 was that movie. While, yes, it didn't win Best Action Sequence, but overall, Best Action Film, without question, has to go to John Wick Chapter 4.
Yeah, this movie was an epic in every sense of the word, not just in the action scenes, but in the story and the look of it and everything. This is another one that was just filmed beautifully. I mean, there were scenes like, Winston just walking through that hallway, the giant art, behind him, stuff like this, beautifully framed shots, things like that. And this is a movie that I've said since it came out, they won't, but it deserves nominations for things like production design and cinematography, things like that. But I mean, it's just the epic storyline, the journey of the character. There's only maybe one scene in there which we're both kind of like, you know which one we're talking about.
Yes.
If you watch our review, if you don't.
Yes.
But yeah, this just deserves it because as just a pure action film, it is amazing.
Yes. And now we have got our negative part of the show. Next award is Most Disappointing Moment, aka You Fucked Up, aka You Done Messed Up, A.A. Ron Award. This goes to the moments in films where you really just dropped the ball, and whether you were doubling down on something that already wasn't working, or you did something that completely changed the facet of how the rest of the film was portrayed the rest of the way through. These were the most disappointing moments, and the nominees go to ending on a cliffhanger, Fast X, having the movie be about dreams instead of killer animatronics in Five Nights at Freddy's, the horrible CGI in The Flash, the waste of a fantastic cast in Fool's Paradise, and Ric Flair, Iron Claw. If you haven't seen Iron Claw, all I gotta say is Ric Flair. You guys know what I'm talking about. Woo. Jesus Christ. But the winner for Most Disappointing / You Fucked Up, aka the You Done Messed Up A.A. Rod Award, goes to wasting of a fantastic cast in Fool's Paradise. This was my worst film of the year. It was Brian's number 2.
My second worst film of the year, but it was definitely a close race.
Yeah. The cast is an elite cast, all-star cast, and somehow made it one of the worst films of the year. There's no excuse for how amazing this cast is and how they were so unfunny.
Yeah, it's not even like, you put a cast in a movie and the movie doesn't turn out well. This is a comedy, and you put just like comedy all-stars there, some of the funniest people working today, and neither of us laughed but like maybe one time in the entire film.
And even then, it was a snicker. It wasn't like a ha 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 laugh.
Yeah. So I mean, whereas some of these had like certain moments or scenes or things like that, this was just the entire film was just a disaster. And compared to expectations, it could not have been a bigger disappointment.
Yeah. Next is our Most Overrated, aka the Napoleon Dynamite Award, for movies that have been talked up so much or praised by so many people, where the movie is just really not as good as you guys think it is. And the nominees are. Now, granted, hold on. Granted, we might not dislike these movies, but they didn't deserve the overt praise that they got.
Yes.
And the nominees are Barbie, Bottoms, Saw X, Talk to Me, and Theater Camp. And the winner for Most Overrated, aka the Napoleon Dynamite Award, goes to Barbie. Yes, Barbie was a fun experiment that actually did work for most of the film. But oh my God, you guys blew this movie, and you're still blowing this movie so way out of proportion, to the point where you've actually made me not like this movie anymore.
Yeah, and that's tough to do in a year when you have a Christopher Nolan movie and you have those people praising, making you sick of hearing about that movie. Which again, it doesn't comment on the quality of the movie. In that case, it's just the fans of it. In this case, Barbie is a movie that we both liked. I mean, this is one of the nominees in this that I actually enjoyed this movie, but y'all need to calm down. It got insane, and I understand we're not necessarily the main target audience for this, but even then, it's like I enjoy it, but people blowing out of proportion, and they're talking about how if it doesn't get nominated for Best Picture and Best Director, it's a snub. It's like, no, it's not a snub. It just maybe doesn't deserve those awards.
I mean, they're wanting Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Song. Blah, blah, blah.
I mean, there's things about it. There's some acting performances there I could see. I could definitely see things like production design, costume, and music and things like that. But it's like people are acting like this is like the greatest movie they've seen in 20 years, and it's not that good.
Exactly. Our next award goes to Best Comic Book Film, aka the Martin Scorsese Award. And the nominees are Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Nimona, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And the award for Best Comic Book Film, aka the Martin Scorsese Award, goes to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, this has got to be probably one of the easiest picks of the year. I mean, it's right there.
I mean, this was a pretty easy pick. I mean, we both very much enjoyed Nimona, and we've talked about it before, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the future. But that kind of, it was a webcomic made into a graphic novel and came here. But as far as just pure what you think about when you think of comic book films, Spider-Verse is just like the ultimate version of that. And yes, this one was a part one, and it leaves a cliffhanger to go on to part two. But still, the story of it, the characters, the emotions you're feeling throughout this thing, and when you're looking at just how it brings a comic book to life, and no other movie did it nearly as like this one did.
Yeah, literally masterclass in terms of how it was shot and filmed and everything like that. And even like you said, yes, it ends at a cliffhanger, but unlike Fast X, it's a cliffhanger that still has an ending, whereas Fast X was a big FU to everybody when it comes to a cliffhanger ending. But yeah, it utilizes everything it can. It feels like it's coming right off the pages of a comic book, even with the aesthetics of like 1,000, different kinds of Spider-Man. It still worked to perfection. That's why it is our winner for Best Comic Book Film. Our next award is Best Emotional Moment, aka I'm Not Crying, You're Crying award. And the nominees are Flash talks to his mom one last time in The Flash, the almost death / death's door of Rocket in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Indiana says what he would change in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Kevin's final scene with his sons in The Iron Claw, and Audrey's real mom's message in Joyride. And the winner for Best Emotional Moment, aka the I'm Not Crying, You're Crying award, goes to Flash talks to his mom one last time in The Flash. Say what you will about The Flash and its crappy CGI and how they, flubbed the ending and all this kind of stuff. This one scene was perfection in this movie. Ezra Miller, say what you want about them and how they are, but this moment, with him and the character him and his mother, was beautiful. It was beautiful. Your thoughts?
This is another category, first of all, which we almost thought about extending the nominations because there were a ton of great possibilities for this one. Yes. But yeah, The Flash, I think part of the reason this wins, I mean, it is a great emotional moment, just also it just kind of took us by surprise that we'd feel emotion in a movie like this, because it's a comic book movie, but especially being one that's The Flash, who's kind of one of your more lighthearted, funny characters, and Ezra Miller, and and their whole behavior and demeanor and things like that. It's not the kind of thing you expect to feel that emotion. But this scene with Flash and his mom, it really kind of made you have like an emotional moment in the middle of this big action spectacle. It's kind of, you stop and you breathe and you feel the actual familial longing and the things of that, and he gets to talk to her one last time, and it was so well done, and it makes it all the more frustrating that Ezra Miller does what they do, because it's just like, clearly you can do great things, just you got to get yourself under control.
Yeah. Our next award goes to Best Surprise / Twist, aka the Jaw Dropper award. Once again, whether these are good or bad, these are the moments that literally left us speechless when they happened in the film. And the nominees are Everything is Real in Knock at the Cabin, Dracula killing Toby in The Last Voyage of the Demeter, June's father is still alive in Missing, Captain Hook was the first Lost Boy in Peter Pan and Wendy, and Miles meets other Miles in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And the winner for Best Surprise / Twist, aka the Jaw Dropper award, goes to Miles meets other Miles in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, like you said, cliffhanger ending. This was the moment where you were in that scene and you're like, something's off and I'm not quite sure what it is. And then you got the reveal. You're like, oh shit, and then it ends. You're like, oh shit. It's like, but yeah, this was a great moment.
Yeah, you're watching this film, and a lot of people are like me, is like, you're getting towards the end of the movie and you're like, okay, this only has a few minutes left, this is going to end, and you realize it's going to end on a cliffhanger. But I was not expecting this, because like you said, there's the feeling that something's off, and everything, but the way it's film, the way the characters are behaving, the musical cues, things like that, are all kind of giving you that little discomfort, like something's not right. And then there's that moment you realize that he's in the wrong, he came back to the wrong universe. And then you think back to, when they're saying what number they put into the thing, and you're like, oh shit, they're in a different universe. And then they top that off by going, oh, here's, other Miles is basically the villain in this universe, and you're like, oh, shit's about to get real. And of course, now we have to wait 2 years till the next movie.
Yeah, instead of what was it, like 6 months, like
It
we
was
were
supposed to
promised.
be, I think it was 9 months, because it was supposed to be April of this year, I think.
Yeah,
So
now
when that came out, it would have been,
yeah, who knows when we're gonna get the last one now.
yeah.
Next award goes to Best Cameo, aka the Yes, We All Saw It award. These were moments whether people popped up that were not planned to pop up in a movie, whether they were on there for 3 seconds or 3 minutes. These were our best cameo nominees. And the nominees are the OG 80s cartoon characters popping up in Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, George Clooney popping up as Batman in The Flash, or I guess Bruce Wayne in that case. The 4-way cameo of Anthony Mackie, John Cho, Sebastian Stan, and Ryan Reynolds in Ghosted. Haley Steinfeld, aka Kate Bishop in The Marvels, and Donald Glover as Prowler in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in a live-action part of the animated film. And the award for Best Cameo, aka the Yes, We All Saw It award, goes to Donald Glover as live-action Prowler in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, this worked on so many levels. One, it's an animated film, and all of a sudden, here's live-action Donald Glover. Two, it calls back to Spider-Man Homecoming, where we're like, oh, Donald Glover, but he voices Miles. And then the other thing is he voiced the original Miles in the cartoons before Miles became a movie character. That, and we just love Donald Glover so damn much. Everything on part of this scene worked, and it was memorable to say the least, obviously. But
Yeah, I mean, part of what made it so great is because it does make that tie-in back to Spider-Man Homecoming, when he talked about his nephew Miles, and like, oh wait, they actually kept, with the continuity of it because he plays the Prowler and all this thing. And so if you love that moment, and I especially love that we call this movie the Yes, We All Saw That award, because this is one of those moments in theaters when he came up and everybody's like, oh, that's all there. And everybody felt they had to explain to the person next to them, oh, remember in Homecoming you did this? Like, yes, we all know. We're all fans here. You don't need to explain it to
we've
us.
all watched those scenes, movies many times. That's why we're here.
Yeah, it just made it all the better that, because he did voice Miles. And then on top of that, he's been a Spider-Man fan for a while. He was lobbying to try to be Spider-Man in the next, I think it was before Tom Holland got it. He was trying to lobby to get it for himself. And so it's just a great moment for that to have him in there.
Absolutely. Our next award goes to Best Breakthrough, the I Got Next award. This goes to performances of actors and actresses who might be brand new to the scene, or not brand new to the scene, but brand new to people who have not seen them in movies. They might be TV show actors who have finally branched off onto the big screen, who have really shown up, or there are people that we didn't even know existed that we
people that have worked in movies, but they've had like small roles, and this is kind of their breakout. They got people's attention, like, hey, you might be seeing a lot more of me soon.
Yes. And the nominees are is it I want to make sure I don't say his name wrong. Is it Dar Salim from
Salim,
from Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, Dominic Sessa from The Holdovers, Shamir Anderson from John Wick Chapter 4, Ashley Park, Joyride, and Sherry Cola, also in Joyride. And the award for Best Breakthrough, the I Got Next award goes to Dar Salim from Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. This guy managed to go right up there toe-to-toe with Jake Gyllenhaal and put on a memorable, fantastic performance. This was a movie that I had zero to low expectations because I'm not a fan of Guy Ritchie. I literally only watched it because of Jake Gyllenhaal being the lead in the movie. And this is the guy that, as I was watching it going, I love Jake, but I am enthralled with how well this guy's doing in this movie. Everyone in this noms pool is great. But he was the one that was a big standout for me in this movie.
Yeah, this is a movie that I know you loved a lot more than me, but don't get me wrong, I thought it was a very good movie. But especially when you're acting next to Jake Gyllenhaal, who's had his share of phenomenal performances, and then you have him in there, and this is the guy who really grabbed your attention. This is the guy who you're like, hey, who's this character?
Because I looked afterward, him up on IMDb in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, and the only other thing I had ever seen him in was Exodus, Gods and Kings, and I didn't remember him from that. But I'm saying that's the only movie he's done that I've seen besides this. But I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of him in the future.
Absolutely. Our next award goes to Best Villain. Obviously, no explanation needed for what this award is, but the nominees are Jonathan Majors as Damian Anderson in Creed 3, Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie in Evil Dead Rise, Jason Momoa as Dante in Fast X, Bill Skarsgård as Marquise in John Wick Chapter 4, and Godzilla in Godzilla -1. And the winner for Best Villain goes to Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie in Evil Dead Rise. This one probably was the one that had the most debate between us, because I think so many choices here that we had to choose from, and I think we were really stuck between three to win.
My problem is during the conversation, I'm like, okay, I think it's between one of these two. And then we just start talking about this two. I'm like, well, what about this other one over here? Okay, what about these two? No, let's go back to this one again. And I just kept going back and forth because as I thought about it, it's like there were aspects of each villain that I liked. And it came down to which one was just, you wanted somebody that's just pure villainy. It wasn't like a redemption, that kind of thing. And that just kind of throughout the whole movie just kind of had this, just embodied what a true villain is like, and did it with such creativity and made that character so interesting.
Yeah, and Alyssa Sutherland is Ellie. And I was when we were discussing this, I was like we really enjoyed Jason Momoa as Dante because he was cheesing up the screen, and he knew what movie he was in. And Godzilla, being just straight up Godzilla, was fantastic in the movie. But once again, Godzilla just comes in and stomps. Even when he's a good guy, he does the exact same thing. But Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie, she embodied the Deadite so well that I was like, if you took her out of this movie, does this movie still work?
Oh no.
And absolutely, it does not. I mean, she is the catalyst of this movie to make the movie work the way it does, and her performance was amazing. I mean, we saw it in the glimpses of the first trailers. Where it's like, ooh, this is creepy, but then you got to see her full fledged through the film. You're like, damn, she is. I think I knew her from, I think it was Vikings. She was in Vikings, but even on the show there, I was just like, she's okay. But here, I was like, okay, I'm going to start paying attention to her from now on. It was such a powerful, great performance for the Evil Dead franchise. Our next award is Best Animated Film, and the nominees are Elemental, Nimona, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And the winner for Best Animated Film goes to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I think this is its third or fourth win now. Something like that. Yeah, much like what we said, I think, with Best Comic Book. I mean, all of these films are beautifully well done animated-wise. But in terms of what Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse does with its animated technology is astounding. Like they didn't just double down and do the same shit they did in the first film. They expanded and they grew and they added new things to it that really we weren't expecting, and it just wowed me while watching that movie.
Yeah, when we're discussing, when I'm considering Best Animated Film, the primary consideration for me is going to be the animation of it. I mean, yes, you want the story and the heart of it. That's all definitely consideration. But when it came down to picking a winner, it was kind of hard not to give this to Spider-Verse. Because I mean, the first Spider-Verse film, it was so unique in its style and its creativity and things like that. And they could have very well just done another one of the same thing. But they took what they did in the first one, amped it up, and continued to expanded on that. And it was just so creative and so well done on a technical and on a creativity level that you could not give this the animation award.
Absolutely. And now for our final award of the episode or of the show, Best Ensemble. This goes to the best overall cast of the film, not just the stars, but everyone that was involved. And the nominees are Air, Godzilla -1, John Wick Chapter 4, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Oppenheimer. And the award for Best Ensemble Cast goes to Oppenheimer. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, you can knock. Usually, there's always a person in the movie where it's like, yeah, the cast was good, but there's a couple people here that really, really sucked. Oppenheimer, not only did everyone bring their A game, but there were people that popped up in this movie that normally you don't think are that good, and they pop up, you're like, damn, they actually are good in this. Like, I was worried when I saw this person pop up on screen, and they actually did a great job. Case in point, even though we both like them, but I was a little worried. Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett was great in this film. Then you add Josh Peck and Jack Quaid and Casey Affleck.
Alden Ehrenreich, I think, is the most underrated person in this movie. Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. actually coming back to the Robert Downey Jr. we love out since Iron Man. Obviously, Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt. Florence Pugh. We could keep going on and on and on because there's like 50 other people in this movie that we haven't mentioned yet who are great in this film. This was a masterclass of acting for everyone involved, which I know probably bugs Brian because it's a Christopher Nolan movie, but
no, I don't love this movie as much as a lot of people. I think it is a very good movie, but just not like not near my favorites of the year. But the problems I had with this movie have nothing to do with the cast. Everyone in this movie, from top to bottom, from the extras to Cillian Murphy, I thought just on an acting level, it was just perfection. And not only just the people they assembled, but the performances that every single one of those people put in.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's our final award for the 3rd annual Movie Crusaders Awards. Now, for people wondering about, like I said, supporting actor, actress, best actor, best actress, director, and best picture, we are going to be doing a separate video for that. That is the Movie Crusaders version of the Oscars. We're going to be waiting until we see what the actual nominations for those awards are for the actual Oscars, and then we'll be doing kind of both of those in one episode. So hold on for that. We have, let's just put it this way, our choices are probably going to be vastly different than what the actual Oscars are going to be, but that's why we love doing it, because we have our way of thinking compared to the Oscars. And sometimes we're right on point with the Oscars. So it's a double-edged sword. We're either exactly alike or we're so far off the spectrum that people are like, oh, I didn't even think about that person. But that is going to be coming up here soon. Like I said, in the next week or two, probably, because the nominations come out this Tuesday. Coming up next for us, outside of that, I think the next big movie probably isn't until Argyle in the first week of February. Because I think next week, I think is Miller's Girl, which I may or may not get in my area. So I don't even know if I'd have a review for that. But Argyle will be the next big movie to come out. We definitely will have a review for Argyle. I'm definitely going to be checking that one out. And then eventually we'll be coming back again for another Movie Crusaders chat about. We were discussing on whether we were going to shoot one here. And a lot of the stuff that we want to talk about is a few weeks old because we had to shoot all the end of year stuff. So we're like, it's probably not worth talking about now. So we kind of just decided not to do it.
And also, Sean needs to devote some of his time now to his other Crusaders show.
Yes, as you guys have seen, the channel has now been changed from the Movie Crusaders to Crusaders Entertainment, because we have now added a wrestling show to the channel where myself and my other co-host, Jordan JPO Owens, talk about professional wrestling. So if you're a big wrestling fan, WWE, AEW, what have you, we now have a show dedicated to that. We have about, I think, 5 episodes already available to watch on there. We got more to come. We got the big Royal Rumble pay-per-view coming up here next week. We will definitely be talking about that, as well as the road to WrestleMania and everything going on with AEW. So the channel is expanding in a way, and we're going to be adding some other things here and there. What are some of the things you would like us to talk about? Me and Brian, or me and Jordan, or what have you? I will say this. Jordan actually brought this up here on our last episode. He actually wants to do a watch-along of a wrestling show with Brian, because he wants to watch it with Brian and see how Brian's very old school wrestling fan, where Jordan and I are all the way through. But he actually said, I would love to watch it with Brian. I was like, I don't know, Brian might be just poking fun at it the whole damn time. He's like,
you guys get annoyed with me criticizing it. Yeah.
Exactly. I was like, but we got Wrestling Crusaders and the Movie Crusaders now. I hope you guys watch both of them, enjoy them both. But until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch the movies, go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.